and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight Black Voices. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at. As Chicago Public Schools students return to the classroom, we talk with Teachers Union President about the district's budget challenges. Illinois is seeing the highest amount of prison lockdowns in 5 years, what it means for those on the inside. And an Illinois nutritional program for low-income families is eliminated amid federal cuts. A look at the impact. First off tonight, some of today's top stories. Chicago City Council members are being asked to tighten up on their rules of conduct for alderpeople. Chicago Inspector General Deborah Witzberg explains aldermanic misconduct is governed by the city's governmental ethics ordinance, or of course, criminal law as well. But she says there's still a wide swath of potential misconduct that doesn't fall under the ethics ordinance, meaning there is no redress if an alderman should, say, treat someone discourteously or violate the city's diversity and equal employment opportunity policy. Witzberg raised the issue in a letter to Alderwoman Michelle Harris, who chairs the Committee on Committees and Rules, and gave her office a month to respond, but says as of yet there has been no response from the council. Chicago Public Schools is facing a $734 million shortfall, but hopes of additional funding coming from the state of Illinois during its fall veto session appear unlikely.
At the local level, every school is going to have to do whatever it is required in order to protect those students, and I will stand with them in that endeavor. But there is not extra money laying around in Springfield, mainly in part because of what Donald Trump has done at the federal level.
Governor J.B. Pritzker made the comments today at a groundbreaking event for the new Allied Health and Nursing Center at South Suburban College in South Holland. Officials say the 130,000 square foot facility will include state-of-the-art classrooms and advanced simulation labs. Coming up in the program, we'll hear from Chicago Teachers Union President Stacy Davis Gates on the CPS budget proposal and more. As Southwest Side neighbors are cleaning up from the recent storm damage, elected officials are calling for infrastructure investments and a disaster zone declaration.
We keep hearing the same question. Why does this keep happening to us? Families are tired of cleaning up after every storm. And every time that it rains, they still wonder if it's going to happen again. They're tired of paying the price for many years of being neglected.
That was Alderwoman Helu Gutierrez, who says this year alone, 6 Southwest Side communities, including Archer Heights, Gage Park, and West Lawn, have made up over 60% of flooding reports in Chicago. And in her 14th ward alone, 2,000 families have made reports since July. She, along with other elected officials, are also advising constituents on finding resources and avoiding cleanup scams. They're also asking residents to complete a flood damage assessment survey by Friday. You can find that survey on our website. And if you found it difficult canceling your gym membership, you're not alone. The Federal Trade Commission is today suing LA Fitness and other gyms over its cancellation practices. The complaint alleges the company uses opaque and complicated methods to make it difficult or more difficult for consumers to cancel. The FTC says, quote, tens of thousands of LA Fitness customers reported difficulties. Cancellation was often restricted to specific times or required speaking to specific managers who are often not present or available. The California-based company has more than 3.7 million members at 600 locations, including more than 50 in the Chicago area. We did reach out to LA Fitness for comment, but have not heard back. Up next, we sit down one-on-one with CTU President Stacy Davis Gates.
Chicago Tonight, Black Voices, is made possible in part by the support of these donors.
Chicago public school students are returning to the classroom this week, but a budget cloud is hovering over the district. CPS is facing a $734 million shortfall with a deadline to pass a balanced budget coming next Friday. And with the governor and state lawmakers pushing back on additional funding requests, the options facing CPS board members and its interim CEO appear to be narrowing. Joining us now to share her thoughts on those financial challenges ahead is, of course, Stacy Davis-Gates, president of the Chicago Teachers Union. We did invite CPS interim CEO Maquline King on the program. We look forward to having her on as soon as she accepts our invitation. Meanwhile, Stacy, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about the first week of school. Students returned this week. What are you hearing from your members about how the first few days are going?
Well, I'm hearing elation and celebration. The first day of school was a school year where we went back, where libraries were being reopened with librarians as a result of our collective bargaining agreement. Class sizes are smaller. We have more people working with our early childhood educators. We have more case managers. But conversely, we don't have crossing guards. Children are going without hot lunches. We are seeing this at the same time as Trump is dismantling the Department of Education, which means that special education families have zero redress. It also means at the same time SNAP benefits are being marginalized, hot lunches are being taken away from public school students in Chicago. So it is the best of times and the worst of times.
We often know that the first few days of school, especially when the district has not passed a budget, when there are times of financial uncertainty, I feel like we've talked about this in years past, those first few weeks can also be, there can be some issues that no one was expecting for that first day. Have any of your members raised any of those issues?
So on the third day, we are getting calls in right now because building level administrators have told our members to go soft on toilet paper and paper towels because of the budget. We're hearing from coaches. We have a coach at Carver Elementary School who has a flag football team for the girls, and it took him a while to get it organized, and now sports administration at Chicago Public Schools are telling him that they have no funds for it, even though the Chicago Bears are subsidizing the program. So the level of chaos that being delinquent and receiving $1.6 billion from the governor and the General Assembly. This is every August chaos because they refuse to pay the Chicago students what they deserve.
And I want to come back, of course, to state funding, because as we know, and as we've mentioned several times on this program, there is that $734 million budget shortfall that the district has to resolve in time to pass a budget by law next week. Right now, the board is split over whether to defer this $175 million pension payment and take on new borrowing. What do you think, and how do you expect that to get resolved?
When someone owes you nearly $2 billion, you don't have any good decisions to make. Every decision that those people on the Board of Education has to make is a bad decision. They are codifying cuts to the classroom. They are telling people to go without special education services or even transportation to the school. Meanwhile, we're hearing a no from our governor and from our General Assembly. That doesn't compute, especially when I know a mother who got a second job over the summer to make sure that she was able to get her daughter to school because she has no transportation. There is no way in the world that someone in charge of this great state can tell children no.
Back in 2022, CTU at the time said that Mayor Lightfoot was saddling CPS with that $175 million pension payment instead of funding critical positions. Is CTU now okay with CPS making that payment rather than the city, and as you know, the Mayor Johnson and appointed board members are pushing for?
No, we're okay with J.B. Pritzker, Speaker Welch, and Senate President Harmon calling a special session and getting their rank and file supermajority Democrats back in Springfield to figure out how to help us make ends meet here in Chicago. But it's not just here in Chicago. It's Naperville, which will have a picket line tomorrow. It is Rockford. It is Elgin. If you put Chicago Public Schools, Rockford schools, and Elgin schools, all of the bills that they have due from the state, then that's $2 billion. Children are going without math teachers for an entire school year because they won't pay the bill. So every August, there will be chaos in Chicago because they are short the requisite money to run the district.
Well, that said, though, that $175 million pension payment, it's turned into a hot potato with everybody sort of passing it back and forth. Yes. Who should be taking this on?
The state of Illinois, through our governor, our Senate president, and our Speaker of the House, should alleviate that stress. Look, we have board members who are trying their level best to figure out how to fund our schools. You have a CEO who is upside down with trying to figure the same thing out. The differences that both factions have are very small, and only differences brought on because of a $2 billion bill that is going unpaid by a billionaire governor and the Illinois General Assembly. We need to be very clear that these are the people doing difficult things and trying to figure it out. And we also need to put pressure on our state government to give them some relief. You cannot get a good decision when your budget doesn't have the revenue that it is legally required to have.
So and to be clear, the $2 billion bill that you were referring to, is this the amount that would be funded the city under the evidence-based funding formula that the state funds schools under?
That's absolutely right. In 2017, the state of Illinois passed evidence-based funding formula, one of the best formulas in an entire country. And the formula needs revenue, and we don't have that revenue. And statutorily, they are in arrears by $1.6 billion here. Together with Rockford and Elgin, it's $2 billion.
Okay, so we've mentioned Springfield a number of times, of course, and we have a little bit of sound from State Representatives Ann Williams and Curtis Tarver, who joined us on this program last week. Here's what they had to say about CPS's funding challenges and the possibility of support from Springfield.
There are some structural inequities built into how schools are funded. For example, Chicago Public Schools pay for most of their own pension payment, whereas schools throughout the rest of the state contributes more.
I would like to see quite a few changes, and I think there's precedent for that. When you look at the transit, there's been conversations about not just sending funds to the CTA or the RTA without some kind of additional oversight.
So what do you make of that? If Springfield should magically produce more money, that it comes with strings, that it comes with oversight?
I do not understand anything that I'm hearing from Democrats and with a trifecta, a literal supermajority in the House and in the Senate. If you look at Washington right now, they have a trifecta, and they have basically remade this society in less than a year. And I have representatives that I know and love who cannot figure out how to Trump-proof Illinois, how to fund schools for children, and how to get us around the city and the state. I don't understand it. If nothing else, pay attention to how Trump and his team gets work done. Now, their values are messed up, it is undignified, and it is wrong, and they get it done. Meanwhile, these people are talking about problems as if they don't have any power. I think that's a little too late and too short.
So we also heard from Governor Pritzker at the top of the show. He was asked a question about this very issue, and he said, quote, there isn't extra money lying around in Springfield, given the state's own budget challenges. How do you get Springfield to move on this?
Actually, there is money lying around. Donald Trump gave billionaires in Illinois a $5 billion tax break. The governor, the supermajority in the House and the Senate can figure out how billionaires get to pay more. So there is money lying around. And for teachers all over the city and all over the state, you know what they did? They found money in their savings account. They found money out their paychecks. They found money out of their household budgets to figure out how to buy backpacks, notebooks, shoes, clothes, toiletries for their students. It is completely offensive and unacceptable to hear people who have authority and power, who have been empowered even to protect us in this moment of tyranny, take a pass.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. CTU President Stacy Davis Gates, happy first week of school. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, why prisons across Illinois are seeing a rise in lockdowns. Summers in prison are known for being stiflingly hot, and during repeated lockdown conditions, a prison cell can feel more like solitary confinement. A WTTW news analysis shows this year, people incarcerated in Illinois are seeing a record amount of lockdowns. Our Blair Paddock joins us now with more. Blair, what is the cause of these high lockdowns?
Yeah, so the high lockdowns are largely due to staffing shortages. IDOC categorizes lockdowns in two ways. One being administrative, which is routine disruptions to a facility that can be staffing shortages, or incident-based lockdowns, and those are, an incident happening and the safety or security of a facility being compromised. And as you can see, administrative lockdowns are way up. One example, looking at the downstate prison, Menard, they've been on lockdown nearly every day since October 2023. And from January to mid-July of this year, they've only been able to staff about 44% of that prison on average.
What are conditions like during lockdowns?
Yeah, they're pretty similar to solitary confinement. Going back to Menard, I talked to a guy who had seen the cafeteria for the first time this summer, and he's been there for about 3 years. So visitation can get canceled. They're not getting out of cell yard time. They have streaming services on these new tablets that they have, but those prices can add up. So it can be really draining, both physically and mentally, to be in lockdown 24/7.
So limited fresh air at the very least. Obviously, no trips to commissary or libraries or limited trips.
Yeah.
So what does the Illinois Department of Corrections have to say about this high amount of lockdowns?
Yeah, so they say that they're working on it, basically. Both they and the union that represents most correctional workers asked me, they pointed to these regional training facilities that they say are picking up the pace of staffing. But, I talked to the John Howard Association, their prison watchdog group in the state, and they say if staffing numbers can't get up, if Menard cannot keep a facility staffed, they should look at consolidating facilities.
Okay, which I'm sure, of course, is a whole other conversation that lots of folks would have to weigh in on. Blair Paddock, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And you can read Blair's full story on our website. It's all at WTTW.com/news. Over 1 million Illinois residents have benefited from an educational program that teaches SNAP recipients about nutrition. But since the Trump administration's massive budget bill cut $287 billion in SNAP benefits, formerly known as food stamps, the program known as SNAP Ed is coming to an end after 30 years. Joining us now with more on the local impact are Dalen Dufelmeyer, director of the Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion at the University of Illinois Chicago, and Denitria Adams, nutrition specialist of the Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion at the University of Illinois Chicago. Thanks to you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Dalen, first, why don't you tell me how this program works, please?
So we get money from the federal government, passes through the state, and goes to the University of Illinois system, and then it's split between Extension, which is housed in Urbana-Champaign, and then UIC, which is at our office, the Office of Community Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships, and we focus exclusively on the city of Chicago, where we deliver nutrition education to anybody who's eligible for SNAP benefits. So any federally means-tested program, if you're eligible for our services, and we work, doesn't matter the age or the location, we do nutrition education, physical activity, healthy lifestyle training.
Why is that helpful? Why is that useful for folks who are receiving SNAP benefits?
It's a good question. So when the idea is that if you're getting money from taxpayers, that you should be as kind of mindful and efficient with that spending, so there's no waste, fraud, or abuse, something like that. And our program, we help people stretch their dollars as far as they can through the different activities, cooking at home, meal planning, prep, shopping, grocery store planning, that kind of thing. So we help people spend their dollars wisely. And that's the hope.
And making healthier choices, obviously,
making healthy
hopefully.
choices,
Yeah. Denitria, tell us about your role in the program. What do you do?
Okay, I'm a nutrition peer educator. I go out in the community. The community I serve is the Roseland and Pullman community. What I do is I go out and I teach nutrition education and also physical activities to seniors, churches, libraries, farmers market, promoting our, the classes that we teach. I do 2 different kind of classes when I'm going in the community. One is Create Better Health, and in that class, I not only teach nutrition education and physical activity, but I also do a cooking demo. And in that demo with the Create Better Health, they get a sample. Now the other class that I teach is Cooking Matters. In that class, they get to take the full meal home and cook the meal that I prepared before them.
So they can do that at home based on what
Correct.
they've learned in your class. What kind of misconceptions do you hear from folks when it comes to cooking and nutrition facts?
Well, one of the misconceptions I just dealt with last week was one of my clients decided that they wanted to go back and start cooking with lard. And that's not a healthy choice. And I had to break it down to that client why it's not a healthy choice. And because of that, if you cooking in lard, if it's hard before you cook it, when you ingest it, what do you think it's going to do? It's going to get hard, and then your arteries are going to get clogged up.
Right. So important, like nutritional lessons like that. Like
Correct. Not only that, the physical activity part as well, because you can eat well all day, but you also have to be physically active as well. Some movement is better than no movement.
Dalen, how will the programs, the loss of funding, how will that impact the work that you do, the food access advocacy work?
So it's a great question. That's one of the biggest challenges is the access component. You know, we can teach nutrition education all day long, but if families can't access the foods or access the resources they need to engage in the knowledge that they've just learned, it's kind of a work for naught. And one of our big programs, or one of our newer innovative programs, is our Top Box Meal Kit project, where we're able to kind of get around the access issues by having meals delivered directly to people's homes. We think this is one of the first projects in the country that actually allows people to use their EBT card, so Link in Illinois, to purchase meals and have them delivered directly to their home. Again, not having to do, you know, massive investments in, you know, grocery store infrastructure and things like that, but solving that issue immediately. And with our, you know, funding cut, it's a big deal. We won't be able to support this project and provide the wraparound services that, you know, help people actually take advantage of this project, which is the recipes, the nutrition facts labels, things like that, and helping Top Box, you know, ideate on you know, what to do next.
As we've discussed, you know, the Republican-led House Committee on Agriculture had claimed that the SNAP Ed program yielded no meaningful change, called it a waste of taxpayers' money. Demetria, I'm going to come to you on this one first. How have you seen this program, you know, personally affect people's lives, the people who receive the services and the benefit?
One of the things is the clients, they want this program. You know, they have not been introduced to this program until we came along. And now that that's going to be cut from it, they don't have that access. They don't have the knowledge of how to eat well, how to be healthy, and also how to be physically active.
Dalen, same question to you. Like, how have you seen this impact people, and what are your concerns?
So one of the things that I'm particularly proud of with our program, you know, there's a lot of focus on, you know, individual people's transformation. You know, somebody lost a bunch of pounds, or they're cooking more at home, things like that. That's wonderful. But the thing that I'm most proud of is our work also with the institutions that are taking care of the people, right? So this is your Chicago Public Schools, this is your Chicago Park District, these are your local groups like the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, you know, and we work with these groups to help them adopt a culture of wellness, a culture of health. And so those are the things that I'm most proud of, and I really want to challenge this notion of it being a wasteful program or something that doesn't yield benefits, because the things that we do behind the scenes pay dividends for the future, right? You know, sometimes when you plant a seed for a tree, you may not experience the shade that the tree provides in the future. But that doesn't mean that the work is not valuable, and that's where we stand. We think that we make an investment now in the communities that we live in, that we work in, that we play in, and that it'll pay off in the future with healthier children, next generation.
That's a very good place to leave it. Dalen Dufelmeyer and Denise Adams, thanks to you both for joining us. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so well for having us.
Thanks for having us on.
And that's our show for this Wednesday night. Join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10. A new report shows massive hyperscale data centers are endangering the Great Lakes. We dig into how. And rapper and frontman of the hip-hop group Public Enemy, Chuck D, is in town. He joins us to talk about his latest venture. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight Black Voices, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that contributes to public safety policy and guidelines.